Laner. I'm seriously thrilled to have you here today because we are digging into something absolutely fascinating. We're digging deep into the word association test, or the WAT, and we're going to crack the psychology behind 60 critical practice words, looking at heavy hitters like leader, success, and failure. Now, if you've ever wondered how military and defense psychologists can assess a candidate's entire mental framework in just a fraction of a second, well, this is exactly how they do it. Get this, in the actual testing environment, you only have about 15 seconds to look at a word and write down your response. I mean, your subconscious barely has time to blink before your pen has to hit the paper. And because of that insane speed, your immediate, unfiltered reaction speaks volumes about your character. So get ready, because we're going to break down the exact winning mindset you need to absolutely ace these assessments. And to make this super practical for you, rather than just reading off a massive, unstructured list, we've organized these 60 words into 6 digestible chapters: cracking the word association, leadership and teamwork dynamics, turning adversity into advantage, core character and discipline, duty, patriotism and service, and finally, mastering the winning mindset. Okay, let's dive straight into Chapter 1, cracking the word association. Right, so before we even look at specific words, we need to understand what this test is fundamentally designed to measure. Spoiler alert, the WAT is not a vocabulary check. The evaluators really don't care if you know fancy synonyms. You've got to think of it more like a psychological X-ray for what are known as officer-like qualities, or OLQs. When you see a word, the evaluator is waiting for a reflex that proves you have these qualities. And honestly, here is the most empowering takeaway from our source material today. These officer-like qualities, they are developed through daily practice. They're not some innate magic you're just born with. They are actual habits of thought that you can deliberately train. Moving right along to Section 2, leadership and teamwork dynamics. Let's look at how your responses really need to reflect a team-first mindset and a strong bias for action. Notice the clear pattern in these ideal responses. If you get the word team, your brain needs to instantly jump to how a team functions effectively. The winning response here is teamwork achieves difficult goals. And pay close attention to the verbs here: inspires, achieves, strengthens, creates. The psychology behind this demands active, driving verbs. A leader isn't just a guy with a title. A leader inspires. Initiative isn't just a buzzword. It literally creates opportunities. You're showing the evaluator that your baseline mindset is inherently active and forward-moving. I actually wanted to pull this standout quote directly from the lexicon to really cement this philosophy. An officer leads by example. When you're triggered with the word officer, this right here is the absolute gold standard response. True leadership in this environment is 100% about action and modeling behavior. It's not about shouting orders from the back of the room. It's about setting the standard from the front. All right, let's hit Section 3, turning adversity into advantage. So the test will actively try to trip you up with negative triggers. When you see words like failure or mistake, your natural human instinct is probably going to be defensive or maybe a bit pessimistic. But this is where you have to master what we call the positive pivot. Notice how failure isn't framed as a dead end here. Instead, it's something that teaches valuable lessons. A mistake doesn't mean you're incompetent. It provides learning opportunities. This is a massive psychological framing technique. By making this pivot, you are literally proving your resilience in real time. And this perfectly illustrates the overarching pattern of transforming obstacles directly into motivators. Let's take defeat. A poor, kind of weak response might be, defeat is sad. But the winning pivot? Defeat motivates improvement. Or when presented with problem, the optimal response is, every problem has a solution. You're signaling to the assessor that your brain doesn't just sit and dwell in the darkness of a negative trigger. It immediately starts hunting for an actionable solution or a silver lining. Which brings us to Section 4, core character and discipline. Now that we've covered external actions and overcoming adversity, we need to shift our focus inward for a second. What really holds a team together when things get tough? It's the internal fortitude and moral compass of the people in it. Look at the structural links in these ideal responses. Discipline builds strong character. Honesty earns respect. Truth builds trust. Responsibility develops trust. The crucial takeaway is that in this specific lexicon, virtues aren't just isolated, abstract concepts. They are the social glue. You're demonstrating a clear understanding that your own personal discipline and honesty directly impact the trust and respect of everyone around you. I just want to pause on this short, high-impact statement for a moment because it's so important. Duty comes before comfort. When you are hit with the word duty, this is the exact selfless mindset expected of a highly disciplined candidate. It's stark, it's clear, and it just perfectly encapsulates the level of sacrifice inherent in a life of service. Let's move to Section 5, Duty, Patriotism, and Service. For military, defense, and service-oriented psychological assessments, conveying a sense of higher purpose is absolutely non-negotiable. Notice how these specific responses strip away any hesitation or ambiguity. There is just an unwavering, absolute dedication present here. The flag isn't just a piece of cloth. It represents unity and sacrifice. Patriotism isn't just a warm feeling. It inspires selfless service. When you encounter these big institutional trigger words, your associations have to reflect a deep, resolute commitment to the collective good over yourself. And look at how this applies to arguably the most intense trigger word you could face, war. Even when confronted with such a heavy, chaotic concept, the ideal response stays completely grounded, professional, and composed. War demands courage and discipline. It doesn't romanticize it, and it definitely doesn't run from it. It just brings the focus right back to those foundational traits we explored earlier in the explainer. Finally, Section 6, Mastering the Winning Mindset. So how do we synthesize all this raw data into a practical framework you can actually use? Well, notice how in this psychological lexicon, ultimate success is never, ever framed as a product of luck or just natural talent. Success requires perseverance. Confidence isn't about ego, it comes through preparation. Determination overcomes obstacles. You are showing the evaluator a mindset that deeply respects cause and effect. Hard work, clear goals, and preparation are the causes. Success and confidence are simply the guaranteed effects. Let's wrap this all up into a core underlying formula for you. If you really want to master the WAT, you need to keep these key principles in your mental toolkit. First, use active, driving verbs to show momentum. Second, focus immediately on solutions. Never waste time dwelling on the negative trigger. Third, master that positive pivot by framing your mistakes purely as learning opportunities. Fourth, maintain an attitude of selfless service. And lastly, remember our very first point today. Treat these officer-like qualities as mental habits. You have to build them through daily practice. I want to leave you with